first with breaking news and weather. Your First Alert starts now with First Alert 6 at 6.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for the streaming edition of First Alert 6 at 6. I'm Erin Sullivan. Let's get into our top 6 headlines. The Omaha City Council rejected a proposed ordinance which would make homeless encampments on city property illegal. 2 council members voted for it, 5 against it. This ordinance has gone through some significant changes since its first introduction by Council Vice President Brinker Harding. Last week, Harding introduced an updated version of the proposal to include more steps that the city would have to take before prosecuting people living in encampments. The updates address some of the concerns previously raised by Mayor John Ewing, but today a majority of the city council was still not convinced enough to sign onto the proposal. 1 person was flown to the hospital after a crash involving 2 semi-trucks just south of the metro. It happened here on Highway 75. Our news crew saw 2 semi-trucks in the ditch just south of the Webster Boulevard overpass. The Cass-Graham tells us the Cass County Sheriff's Office preliminary investigation indicates a semi driving southbound veered into the northbound lanes after the driver suffered a medical episode. The rig then hit another semi traveling northbound. The driver of the first semi was pinned inside the cab. Rescue teams later freed him and then airlifted him from the scene. Investigators say the driver of the second semi was minorly hurt and able to walk away from the crash. Both directions of Highway 75 were closed temporarily while crews cleared debris, but they have since reopened the scene. The Palmyra man charged in the death of Nebraska State Trooper Kyle McCasey appeared in court today for a pretrial hearing. Back in August, Thomas Jordan pled not guilty to misdemeanor motor vehicle homicide. Trooper McCasey died in February while working a crash on I-80 near Ashland during a snowstorm. The Nebraska State Patrol believes McCasey was asking Jordan to move his snowplow, and as he was returning to help people involved in the crash, the State Patrol says the plow went in reverse and hit McCasey. We are now 21 days into the federal government shutdown, and neither side is showing any sign of giving in. Today, President Trump hosted Senate Republicans at the White House in a show of party unity. Trump and Senate leaders reiterated their refusal to negotiate on any Democratic demands. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers will miss another paycheck in the coming days. States, including Iowa, have warned that federal programs, including SNAP, could lapse if the government shutdown continues into November.
Never done this before. Nobody has. You always vote for an extension. Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats need to vote for the clean, bipartisan CR and reopen our government.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer dubbed the meeting a pep rally for Republicans. Schumer insisted his party would end the shutdown and keep health care costs from spiking for millions of Americans. A sad update tonight. Council Bluffs police sharing from family today, saying a 17-year-old motorcyclist that was injured in a hit and run over the weekend is unlikely to survive. Investigators say the teenager was stopped on northbound Broadway, preparing to make a turn when he was rear-ended by a truck. Police say the driver of the truck did not stop to help, instead driving home before then reporting the crash. Authorities say they are waiting to charge the driver until they get the results of a blood test back. They suspect alcohol was a factor. Vice President J.D. Vance says he's optimistic that the U.S. brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas will hold. During his visit to Israel today, the vice president noted the challenges that remain, from disarming Hamas to rebuilding the Gaza Strip, which is devastated from 2 years of war. Today, deliveries of aid to Gaza resumed after Israel briefly halted shipments over allegations that Hamas militants violated the ceasefire agreement.
And tomorrow is a First Alert 6 weather day. I'm tracking temperatures in the mid-30s as we're waking up in the morning, and this is going to be our first widespread frost of the season likely. This is going to affect all portions of our viewing area, likely even colder up to the north of the metro. So with this in mind, make sure to cover up any plants that are outdoors that might be sensitive to the cold, harvest your gardens, and of course, don't forget to keep your pets in mind too. It's going to be very cold all across our viewing area. So because of this, we do have a frost advisory for all the counties that you see here in blue. That'll go until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then as you can see, the counties in that brighter blue color, those are under a freeze warning. And that's because temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler up to the north of the metro, likely dropping into the low 30s. So a quick check of your 10-day forecast for you. Although we are going to be cold tomorrow morning, into the afternoon, it'll actually be a little bit more comfortable than we were today. 65 degrees, a bit breezy with plenty of sunshine, and a pretty similar forecast for Thursday too. We'll start off Thursday morning in the mid-30s and then a rebound to 65 by the afternoon. Heading into the weekend, you'll notice a few clouds start to move in, some off and on showers possible on Friday. That'll be the same for Saturday. Some morning rain, but most of the day should be dry. Feeling like fall all the way through Sunday. We'll be tracking that chance for rain off and on into early next week. A few windy days in our forecast. Notice how temperatures drop into the mid-50s by the midpoint week of next week. And then, of course, by the end of the 10-day forecast, we finally arrive at Halloween. Right now, looking close to about 60 degrees, partly cloudy and dry at the moment. If you want to follow along with this forecast, you can check out our First Alert 6 weather app. And Aaron, we're looking ahead to a few cold mornings in our future this week.
Yeah, and some of those days with the highs in the 50s, going to be pretty chilly for us compared to what we're used to.
Yeah, definitely going to end the month a little bit colder than how we started it.
Yes, I'd say so. Thanks, Jade. All right, well, that does it for us for our streaming newscast tonight at 6. We'll be streaming again tonight at 10 p.m., then back on TV after the NBA games wrap up tonight on NBC at 11:30. We'll see you then.